items that we'd like to address and bring up is to honor residents that we have lost in this past year. One of the individuals that was brought up was Donna Leonard. She was often found greeting on Saturdays at the library. Many people and children recognized her for her great smile and friendly demeanor, and she'll be very much missed, especially by the children who often referenced her as the community grandma. So we give our condolences to Sarah Leonard and her husband Tom Dowse, who is previously selectman and also on the finance committee currently. So I'd just like to take a moment of silence for her. Thank you. And also there was another individual that we lost this past year who served with the community, Don Clifford. He was a selectman and did assist with the Community Preservation Committee, as well as just another individual that did a lot of work behind the scenes during his time with the community. So we'll take another moment of silence for him as well. Thank you very much. All right, so now we're going to just get into the beginning of the meeting, go over some of the housekeeping. As the moderator, it is my job to see that we go through all of the articles of the warrant and that we have proper discussion. We will be adhering to the rules published in the Town Meeting Times, which, if anyone has the opportunity to read this, it'll help educate you on how we operate with the town meeting. And I would also like to take a moment to thank the board and committees for all of the time and effort that they put in assisting to make this meeting happen. The Finance Committee to my right, they will also be able to offer their assistance with any discussion and questions that come up. To my left, we have the Town Clerk, Town Council, Selectmen, as well as the Treasurer. All will be available to assist with any questions. Before we move forward with the meeting, I would like to ask the floor for if there's any concern with having the Town Council, Tom McKinney, Town Treasurer Melanie Jackson, was speaking on the floor at all, because they are not residents of the town of Phillipston. Seeing no questions there, we should be good to move forward. So the process that we'll be taking is that I will ask for a motion on each article and then ask for a second. Generally, the Finance Committee may speak to the motion, and then I will give the floor an opportunity to discuss the motion. We can talk about the article, but not about specific people. Please keep the discussion in line with the scope of the article. If I find at any time that we're repeating ourselves and maybe bringing up points that have already been brought up in the past, I may just ask to keep it back in line and keep to relevant to the article and not repeating ourselves. So once we've reached a point where the discussion has reached a level of clarity, we'll move to a vote. If you would like to participate in the discussion, please raise your hand to get my attention in any way. If you need to say question, I will address you and let you know that we're good to have a conversation, and you can come up to the microphone up here. When you come up to speak on the floor about the discussion, please just identify your name and the address that you live, so that way we know what your name is and where you're coming from. And I think that is all of the housekeeping items, and we can start moving forward.
I will move we dispense with the reading of articles.
Second.
All right. With a second, I can ask if there is a vote. All those in favor, vote aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Great. So that will allow us to move forward with each article without reading through them entirely. And we can go right into this with Article 1.
I move the article as printed, deleting the words or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 2.
I move the article as printed, deleting the words or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving to Article 3.
Move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 4.
I move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 5.
I move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving to Article 6.
I move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 7. So Article 7 and 8, I will be approaching a little differently than the past articles we just went through, and I will read each line item. If you have a question on the line item, please just say question, and I will notate that we need to return back to that line, and we'll come back and have the discussion at that point in time and move through a vote on that if necessary. So starting with Article 7, reading the fiscal year 25 proposed. Assessors, 5,216. Board of Health, 4,124. Board of Selectmen, 10,336. Cemetery Commission, 1,084. Constable, 808. Moderator, 406. Planning Board, 7,416. Tax Collector, 43,005. Town Clerk, 65,143. Total of 137,538.
I'll move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes by majority. Moving to Article 8. So before I move through the budgetary line items of Article 8, I just want to take a moment to give the Board of Selectmen an opportunity to speak to this article before we move through it.
Might need some help with this. I'll try to do it so it doesn't annoy people. The sound coming out of this. Anyway, I'm Bernie Mallon, the chair from the Board of Selectmen. And I want to make a statement on these articles moving forward, because they're all money articles, and they have to do with the Select Board and the Finance Committee meeting for many months. Really, if you look through all these items, the line items, there's not any really big amounts that have increased. Unfortunately, there's other things that increase. One of them is the school. Some of that's necessary anyway. And we found ourselves a little bit short, so the Select Board and the Finance Committee unanimously agreed for a ballot question for an override. The numbers in this that we're proposing tonight to be passed are dependent upon the override passing. If the override does not pass at a ballot vote, then we need to come back to a special town meeting and somehow reduce the numbers to make them work, which would mean obviously some cuts in services and other items here. So I want to be very clear that these numbers here are based on the override passing. If it doesn't pass, then we come back. So anything we do tonight to try to change the numbers, really, I mean, you have the right to do that as a voter, but probably the most appropriate place to do it is at the ballot box. We're hoping for your support here and at the ballot box, but I just wanted to make that clear. Does everybody understand that the numbers tonight are based on the override passing? Okay? If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask now.
Of the 175 override, how much is it allocated to the school?
Ruth, can you answer that question for me? Because I'm...
Actually, when we were calculating the budget, we took the school numbers as they were, so the 175 is actually for the rest of the town's services, not for the school. It's not specifically for the school, it's for the whole operating budget.
But is it the school included in that?
Yes.
How much is the school on that?
How much does the school go up by?
There's not a particular number tied to the school. It's the overall general.
And what percentage did the school go up by? So tell them the school went up by 10%.
So my understanding is, a little discussion up here, is the school budget went up like 10.1%? 10.81%. So it would take some time to articulate the exact amount that went up.
And shouldn't we know that? Because in the past, we've always had the town and the school separately. And Templeton still has to vote on the school. And if it fails, then it should come out of ours versus doing an underride like happened a couple of years ago.
Well, the way that we have the ballot question set up, it's for all of those things that combine into that number.
Yes, but the school's part of that, correct?
I understand what you're saying, Paul, but in order for us to change anything now, we would have to, we'd have to it still has to go to the ballot at this point, because that's the way that it was put together. We can't change it now because it's already been advertised, and we're going to have the ballot question, so.
Yes, no, I understand that, but there's a portion of the school that if Templeton doesn't approve it, should come off of this.
Well, not necessarily.
I'm sorry? Not necessarily?
Listen, not necessarily. And I'm going to ask council about this, is if the override passes and there was some money appropriate in that amount for the school, that would end up going into next year's funding for the town.
I'm not sure I understand the question. The override.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Mr. Moderator. In response to the question, so the way the override is structured in this particular instance and the way the question is worded is to increase your levy limit by $175,000, which would go towards both school and town operating expenses. So it's not specific to each one. So I'm not quite sure I understand your question.
You're saying it's not specific to each one. You have to take a budget, every single department.
Sure.
To come up with $175,000 override. Part of that is the school. And that should be, we should know what that number is.
Okay.
Well, we can.
I don't.
10.81
Yeah.
of the previous year's operating budget.
Yeah.
And you should be able to find that in your town
You guys,
report.
the finance committee should know that number. You guys put this all together. That's not something that just comes at a whim.
We're going to try to find that information for you.
So, can I?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the change, the increase for Phillipston, the 10.81% is $200,978.
That's the increase for the school.
That's the increase for FY '25. So it doesn't, the 175,000 does not cover that. It is for general operating expenses for the town and the school. It's not tied to one article or one item.
But the 175 has that 200,000 in it, correct?
Well,
Yes.
It's 200,000.
Yes or no?
But yes, part of it is.
Fine, so 200,000.
But there's not in the line
If
amount.
Templeton doesn't approve it, then $200,000 should come off for that number.
It depends on what Templeton approves.
Not necessarily, and that's not true, not necessarily. And some of this discussion should be taking place at a series of finance committee meetings, which is open to the public to come in, so we don't get into this debate here. That $200,000, part of that is mandatory increase by the state. So we can't, if there's an override, the override would be a portion of that would have to go going back in. And again, it's for the operating expenses.
But the increase for the school is 200,000 over last year.
Over last year.
Exactly. So the budget was put together, 175 includes that 200,000 for the school.
Yeah. What was that again? Yeah. I mean, Gare made a point. He said if we hadn't done the underwrite a few years back, we'd be all set. We wouldn't be here trying to
Yeah, the underwrite came through because we voted on, it was broken up, what was the town and what was the school. We voted on the whole thing, and it was, we got our tax rate on it.
Yeah.
Then the next year, we came along and it was suggested to do an underwrite because the school never got the money. Correct? So that's why we did an underwrite.
I'm really focused on this meeting tonight, like trying to
So am I, that's how I
trying to make things clear and get things through to people without arguing. Yeah.
There's a question over here.
It seems like we're having a lot of discussion and we don't have any motions on the floor. Are we just having a public meeting or are we having a town meeting?
It is a valid point.
Anyway, Mr. Moderator, I made the position clear that the amounts tonight in here are based on the override passing. It's up to the voters, the townspeople here, if they want to maintain the level of service that they have now and take care of the people and the years that we have not lived up to our obligation to the employees in town and stuff, then do whatever you want to do to cut it. Us guys, we're not here to fight with you. We're here to try to operate the town and make things work. I want to move forward and start the meeting. If you want to vote against it, you have every right to do that. Let's move forward with the meeting.
In the past,
Let's move forward with the meeting.
Let's hold up one moment. I definitely am not stopping any discussion from here, but there was a very valid point that we haven't actually had a motion on this. The point in pulling the selectmen into, I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback here. Let me see if I can. One moment, everyone. Let's try a different microphone. That's okay. All right, can everyone still hear me okay in the back? All right, good, thank you. So, obviously, the point of bringing the selectmen in at the beginning of this article was to kind of just give a little clarity, but prior to going through the budgetary items, because obviously the situation with the upcoming election and having an override on there is probably on a lot of the residents' minds. So that was the point in bringing that up. There's discussion around the numbers. Let's start moving through these articles and we'll get a motion through this. If there's a question on the line item. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Susan Larrabee, 11 Drive. Just a point of interest, just so the residents can't go here. I got this information. In Templeton, out of all the schools on the school district, like we have a breakdown between elementary, middle school, and high school. In Templeton, the Templeton schools comprise of 1,127 students. The village students are 194. That percentage is 85% at Templeton, 15% at Context.
Thank you. Yes, question.
Yes, Richard Goff, Assembly Hall, North Wilson. Just my takeaway on this discussion here that is, if you have any question on any of the numbers or any of the financial numbers of the town, they must present the financial committee meeting, and there will be no discussion on the town floor if you have a question. Is that correct?
Yes, so the Finance Committee does have regular meetings that are open to the public that they can come and attend and question any of the line items that are getting discussed and put together for the budgetary purposes. They went through and worked diligently throughout the year to put this information together, and they put a lot of effort into this. So it behooves anyone to try and attend those throughout the year. And as mentioned in a couple instances here, this is the town floor and we should be focusing on going through the articles. If there's questions along each line, we can focus on that and have additional discussion there. Yes.
Tom Speck, 80 Blake Corner Road, Phillipston. I'm speaking as Tom Speck personally. I'm catching a misnomer here. If a townsfolk person has a question, just use pick a figure here, on IT, and as we go down the list and they go, question, I would hope that the townsfolk would have an opportunity to talk about it here. Personally, being on the Finance Committee, I don't think we have enough room for all these people over in that room when we have our meeting. I'm being a little sarcastic, but I would hope that for some reason other than clarity or time, that the townsfolk will get an opportunity to have a discussion on any one of these numbers that are here that we're presenting tonight. Unless I caught this discussion wrong, you guys can change any of these numbers at will.
Yes, once we get a motion to move through the article and go through each line item, as I mentioned on the last one, please mention question, and I will notate it, and we'll come back to that line item, and we can discuss it at length. I apologize if there was any misunderstanding on what was spoken previously. This is the town floor. We have every opportunity to speak through and discuss the decisions. So with that being said, are there any other questions before I move into Article 8? Okay. So as I mentioned on Article 7, I'm going to go through each line item. Please say question, I will notate it, and we will return back to the line item to discuss it.
Make the motion first.
Yes. So, Article 8.
Do you want me to make the motion first?
Yep.
All right. I move the town raise and appropriate $2,758,981 to pay the town charges for the 12-month period commencing July 1st, 2024, and further that appointing authorities shall set salaries for personnel within the amounts appropriated hereunder in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 41, Section 108.
Second.
Thank you. Hearing a second, I will go through each line item. Board of Assessors, payroll, $28,100. Certification stipend, $1,000. Expenses, $17,000. Board of Selectmen, administrative assistant payroll, $91,063. I am noting the questions and I will come back to them. Department assistant, $21,320. Building and groundskeepers, $35,000. Expenses, $233,750. ADA, $500. Workers' compensation, $35,000. IT, $36,684. Vadar, $15,000. Queen Lake payroll, $1,997. Queen Lake expense, $2,152. Capital Improvement Planning Committee, expense, $50. Moderator, expense, $50. Bless you. Finance Committee, clerk payroll, $869. Expense, $300. Reserve fund, $75,000. Town accountant, payroll, $50,000. Expense, $1,000. Town clerk, assistant town clerk payroll, $4,390. Is there a question there? Certification stipend, $1,000. Expense, $4,622. Election, $6,900. Voter registration, $250. Treasurer, HR salary, $31,369. Certification stipend, $1,000. Assistant treasurer payroll, $4,000. Expense, $8,000. Tax title expenses, $20,000. Group health insurance, or group health life, $228,196. Social Security Medicare, $20,000. Unemployment comp, $11,000. Worcester Reg Retirement, $180,877. Highway garage debt, $35,719. Tax collector, assistant tax collector payroll, $7,560. Certification stipend, $1,000. Expense, $7,300. Tax title, $8,000. Public safety. Dispatch services, expense, $50,000. Emergency management, payroll, $6,486. Expense, $10,000. Fire department, fire chief salary, $39,746. Payroll, $227,118. Expense, $70,870. Police department, police chief salary, $86,944.
Question.
Chief on duty holidays, $3,344. Payroll, $272,929. Administrative assistant, $7,307. Expenses, $105,060. Public health and regulation. Animal control, payroll, $5,512. Expense, $1,905. Board of Health payroll, $36,121. Expenses, $43,656. Building department, payroll inspector, $18,000. Payroll clerk, $4,320. Expense, $3,420. Inspector of barns and animals, payroll, $853. Expense, $100. Zoning Board of Appeals, clerk payroll, $870. Expenses, $120. Conservation Commission, clerk payroll, $905. Expense, $2,500. Planning Board, clerk salary, $5,551. Secretary payroll, hourly, $1,622. Expense, $3,378. Consultant, $27,054. Public Facilities, Agriculture Commission, clerk payroll, $413. Expense, $1,539. Highway, payroll, $205,016. Expense, $64,700. Snow and ice, $70,000. Phillipston Memorial Building, custodian payroll, $16,913. Expenses maintenance, $50,000. Cemetery Commission, payroll, $16,989. Expense, $5,679. Tree warden, payroll, $1,940. Expense, $12,000. Library, payroll, $16,393. Expense, $7,353. Circulation materials, state, $5,937. Recreation, expense, $5,000. Historical Commission, clerk salary, $151. Expense, $125. Community Services, Council on Aging, expense, $500. Veteran Services, Administration, $5,624. Direct benefits, $10,000. Total, $2,758,981. In reviewing back, I have 1, 2, 3, 19 questions. So now we'll go back to, in order from the beginning, each line item that was questioned. Starting under the Board of Assessors, certification stipend of $1,000 was questions. What is the discussion on this point? If you have a discussion, please come up to the microphone, state your name and the address.
Yeah, I question that. We didn't have one in fiscal year '24. Why do we need it now? And what certification is required?
Mike, and what name and address too, please, if you would?
Yeah, my name is Ron Ricos. I live in Phillipston. It gives me a right to be here. That's all you're getting, sir. If we didn't have it in fiscal year '24, why do we need it in '25? I move we remove it and make that 0.
No reference to the Finance Committee to speak to that?
Okay. The reason we didn't have it in, well, we did have it in '24. We did separate article where we voted to give them, several of the departments, a certification stipend if they were certified in that particular job function. Because who wants somebody in that job that's not certified to do it?
Additional discussion? Yes.
It was voted in, it's a Mass General law, it was on the warrant last year, and it was voted and it passed. I don't want to say there's nothing you could do about it, but it was voted in, it's a Mass General law, it's on our books now. It is what it is. All those have to have certification, they go to school, they test. I have a certified certificate hanging in my office. That's where it comes from. Most towns, if you look up any town in Massachusetts, they do this, and they've been doing this for years.
Thank you. So, just for clarity, I see that there are multiple questions on the certification stipend. Town Clerk, is it true that is the same discussion that would involve each one of the certification stipends under each department?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion around this point? Yes, sir. I'll check back in after each discussion to pull additional residents in.
My name's Dave Manti. I live on 570 Royalston Road. I'm the chairman of the board of the assessors, and we did receive that $1,000 stipend last year, but our principal assessor is not an employee of the town. She's a consultant. So we pay her with the 1099 forms. So she does have her certifications, but last year that $1,000 went to free cash. And this $1,000 will also go to free cash. We're trying to lower our raise and appropriate. So I don't feel raising this $1,000 on your taxes is appropriate, and we should just remove that number and bring it down to 0. And that way there we don't have to raise and appropriate, because I don't plan on giving it to the person because she's not an employee of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Individual in the back, and you'll be next.
Richard Tenney, Highway Superintendent in town, 160 Ward Hill Road. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that it is an MGL that says you can give the $1,000 stipend, but it is not a Mass General law that says you have to. Is that correct? I think it just says that you can. The question that I have is, most of these certifications that we have with all of the persons that are receiving these stipends, we get these during the daytime, they're paid for, by the taxpayers. We're paid travel time, we're paid mileage, and we're paid to take the class. I don't think the taxpayers should be paying, and this is a taxpayer, should be paying an additional $1,000 for a certification that we already paid for to get. And if you're going to pay the clerk, the accountant, the treasurer, and any other person a stipend, then I think the fire department employees should all get stipends for keeping their EMTs. The police should get all of this for their training. And highway, we get hydraulic tests, CDLs, hoisting licenses, DOT physicals. But I firmly believe I shouldn't take any more money because you guys already make sure I get my certifications. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional discussion, did you? Right there? Okay, thank you. Is there any additional discussion on this line item? Yes.
Sylvia Haley, 5 Myrtle Road. I just want clarification from the assessor's office. Are we changing that certification stipend from $1,000 to $0? Or is it just going to stay the same and then go into free cash? Are we changing the number?
They're going to make a motion.
I would like to make a motion.
Is there any additional discussion? We're good.
I'd like to make a motion to remove that $1,000 from the assessor's certification stipend and make it $0. Thank you.
Give me one moment to make sure that I'm handling this properly. All right. Okay, so is there any additional discussion along the motion to amend? Yes. Could you come up and... Consistency.
I'm Rachel Boutwell. I live in Phillips and Pine Meadow Road. My question is in regards to the stipends, can we take and make one motion and take them all off as $0? So we don't have to go through each and every single one as we go through this? Or do you have to do a
No,
motion?
we're going to have to do...
Okay.
Go through each
We'll go one at a time.
All right. Is there any additional discussion to that? Yes.
Tim Haley, 5 Myrtle Road. It was stated that we voted that to approve the general law that we are allowed to pay them or we are capable of. It doesn't say anywhere in there that we have to once we vote that law. That was brought up by Rick. And is there an answer to that, that once you voted in, do you have to pay it, or is it a voluntary thing each year from then on? Does anybody know that answer?
Yeah. Town council.
Thank you everyone for your patience as we work through these. It might be a little significant discussion through this, so we'll work through it.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. With respect to, at least, I'm not sure I have copies of all of the specific statutes. There's 3 different statutes that apply depending on the position. There's one that relates to the town clerk, one that relates to assessors, and another that relates to collectors and treasurers. So at least because I wasn't able to get an internet connection in order to pull up the general laws for the treasurer collector or the assessors one, but at least for the town clerk one, and I believe that the language for the other 2 tracked the same language as this statute, which is General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 19K. and it specifically states that in any town that accepts this section, which Phillipston did last year, a town clerk who has completed the necessary courses of study and training and has been awarded a certificate by the Massachusetts Town Clerks Association as a certified Massachusetts municipal clerk shall receive as compensation from such town, in addition to their regular annual compensation, an amount not more than $1,000 per year, or an amount equal to 10% of such regular annual compensation, but not more than $1,000 per year. So, based on the town clerk statute, it is an obligation for the town to pay this based on the acceptance of the general law, provided that the clerk is so certified by the Massachusetts Town Clerks Association as a Massachusetts municipal clerk. Thank you.
Does that help with your question? Additional question?
Yes, that helps. We just don't want to go against the law. I mean, it would be nice to be able to remove it, but the law's the law. And then can we retract that Mass General law? I mean, it would have to be done next year.
Yeah, I was going to say, not tonight.
Yeah. So it might be something that we have to do in the future if we want to look at this further. Unfortunately, it looks like we have to pay it.
So based on state law and what town council advised, we are obligated to pay the stipend of $1,000. Is that correct, town council?
Yes, that is correct. Once the town accepts the statute says specifically that if the person who fills that particular position is certified by the organization that certifies folks for that particular office, if they meet those requirements for certification and they receive the certification, the town shall pay an amount that's equal to, I think, 10% of their compensation, but not to exceed $1,000.
So what happens to the motion on the floor?
Thank you for that. Can you just give me one moment to just get some clarification on this? So this is
It wouldn't, like the reading of the budget doesn't mean I'm obligated. You know, obligated to fund it.
So it's the line items.
So you should probably read the line item.
All right, so, everyone hear me? Testing, testing. No, I just turned it on.
Test, test. All right. Technical difficulties. Okay, so just to advise what he had, town council just clarified is that the town is obligated to pay the $1,000 regardless of where it comes. So if it's line item on the stipend or if it's coming out of some other line item under that area. I see some additional discussion. The ma'am in the middle with the glasses. Yeah.
Stephanie Flynn, 135 Blake Corner Road. This is just an idea, and I'm not on the finance committee, but what if we voted all the $1,000 now, and then if the override doesn't go through, you could revisit that? Just a thought. And if you have to have a line item where you have to have money in there, when they don't want it, like the assessors, you take their line item down to like $10. And then only so much money goes into free cash. Just an idea. And I've never been on the finance committee, and I don't even write checks, so.
Thank you. Bernie, did you have a comment on that?
I did have a comment on that. So as far as going back to the assessors part, the assessors, they don't have to because they're using somebody as a consultant. That's my understanding. So that money, if the assessors choose to send that back or not use that money, it would go to free cash. It sounds like all the other ones, because they are employees of the town or elected officials, that they're entitled to it by Mass General law. again, I think we're getting carried away by like targeting all those things. If we look, and I just want people to be mindful, if we look at the end, it's like a $58,000 increase from last year for all the budget articles and stuff like that. It's not a huge amount of money. It's huge in I understand in the ballot, like for people paying the taxes on their houses and stuff like that. We're trying to maintain level services. We've made some great strides on these things here. If we zero out these items for the stipends, and they're allowed, or I should say they're mandated by state law, we can zero them out tonight if that's what the people want to do, because you can do whatever you want as voters. We're going to spend more money on council trying to defend us or representing us in court, because if I was an employee of the town, if I was the tax collector or the town clerk or whatever, why wouldn't I come after the town for violating Mass General Law? Let's do some common sense on these things and move forward. I'm going to give it back to the moderator.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we'll have additional discussion along the amendment to reduce this line item from 1,000 to 0. Is there any additional discussion along that line? Yes, sir.
So, because she's not an employee of the town, can we remove that $1,000 without breaking that? I believe you have to be an employee of the town. And technically, she's a consultant, we hire her. She's not an employee of the town, the town benefits. Like I said, I don't want to break the law for you.
It's a good question.
All right, Mr. Moderator, in response to the question, the statute is not 100% clear on that issue. It says specifically that an assessor or assistant assessor who has completed the necessary course of study and is certified is eligible to, or is required to receive this stipend. So it doesn't say specifically whether the person is a town employee or not employee, or an outside consultant, whether they would be entitled to that. Moreover, at some point, if the Board of Assessors, for example, decided to not use an outside consultant and decided to hire somebody in-house who is certified, that person would be eligible for a stipend. So the statute's not entirely clear exactly whether or not a outside consultant would get it if they are so certified. I think there's probably an argument that they wouldn't get it, but I can't tell you sitting here definitively tonight to address this issue on this stipend that was voted in last year by town meeting, whether or not someone who is an outside consultant who may be certified would be eligible. But I can tell you that if you do hire somebody during the course of the year to serve as the assessor or the assistant assessor who is certified, they would be eligible.
Thank you, Town Council. Does that help with your question?
Yeah.
Okay. I see additional discussion question in the back.
Yeah, just so everybody can hear.
Say that again. I'm speaking to the mic.
I'm Kat Buell. I live on Royalston Road, and I am a teacher. I'm also on school committee, but I'm curious to know, like, why we're arguing about a certification when I feel like everyone needs to be certified in every job they have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion on this line item? Yes, sir.
Sure, Mr. Moderator. I looked at the clerk statute, I looked at the assessors statute. I have to look in the book to see whether or not the treasurer collector's statute says the same. Both of the two that I looked at say shall. My sense is, and my recollection from last year, is that the other statute mirrors those statutes. So I believe the answer is shall for all positions.
that are required to be so certified, for which the town accepted the general laws.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion on this line item? All right, seeing no additional discussion, we're going to move to vote on the amendment. So if this passes, we will change the line item. If it fails, we will go back to going through each line item as the motion states. So moving to vote on the amendment of moving it from 1,000 to 0 on the certification stipend. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Amendment passes with a majority. Oh, I'm sorry. Fails. I apologize.
I was going to say.
Sorry about that, folks. Okay, so we'll move on to the next line item that was put in question, which is Board of Selectmen Administrative Assistant Payroll, $91,063. Is there any discussion on this line item at this time? Question in the back.
Good evening. Richard Valcourt, 70 Baldwinville Road. I guess I have a three-pronged question regarding that. Is number one, is that a new position? Is it currently filled? And is it necessary? Due to the elevated salary of the administrative assistant, I would assume that they would be able to assume more and higher duties.
Can you repeat the last part of that, sir? I just wanted to make sure you understood it completely.
I guess I'll repeat it. I said, number one, is that a new position? Is it currently filled? And is it a necessary position due to the elevated salary of the town administrative assistant? I would assume that they would be eligible or able to take on more duties and not be needing an assistant.
Okay. With it being the Board of Selectmen, do you want to speak to this first?
I'm a little bit confused on the question because I thought the question was on the administrative assistant payroll. And is that the question?
Yes.
That's the question that we're on.
Okay, then I'm on the wrong thing. I thought it was the incompetency.
Okay. Was there a question on the administrative assistant payroll?
Yes.
Okay, so we should be addressing that in order.
I apologize. I thought that
Okay.
could be my fault on being clear. So administrative assistant payroll is the first one that was questioned, the $91,063. Are there any questions on that line item?
Yes.
Question.
Ron Ricos, 10 Lincoln Road, Phillipston. Sorry about this. I was a selectman a few years back, and we did have an administrative assistant. I don't believe we had an assistant to the assistant, but since 2018 to 2024, that salary has increased combined 205%. How many people here's salary has increased 205% in the last 5 years? Show of hands, anybody? What is the justification for this massive increase? And I'd like to make a motion to decrease it by $50,000.
I'll second that. Ryan Rosenberg, 30 State Road.
All right, we have a motion to amend the Board of Selectmen Administrative Assistant Payroll, reducing it by $50,000, and we have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote to amend the Administrative Assistant Payroll by $50,000. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Fails by a majority. Moving on to the next line item of Department Assistant, 21, I'm sorry, what? Sorry. Say that again? Questioning the vote? Okay. Did we? Yeah, we will. All right. We're going to move to a standing vote for clarity on that. We'll have the town clerk speak.
Would somebody please tell me what the administrative assistant really gets paid? She does not get paid $91,000. The selectmen decided to fund it higher than she gets paid. What their reasoning is, I don't know. But I want you to know she does not get paid that amount of money. All right?
Okay. One moment. I'm just getting clarification on if we can have discussion prior to doing a standing vote, because we've already voted once, so give me one moment.
Yeah, so I think you just decide. So technically, I think you're supposed to have 7 people stand up to question the vote, but in this case, that's okay. So you can, section 6 in the bylaw says, when a question put, if decision is reasonable, questioned by 3 or more voters, then you can. So there were certainly 3 people questioned. So we're just going to take a vote, a standing vote now. So all those in favor stand.
The two ladies are right there ready to.
Okay. All right, thank you for your patience, everyone. So we're going to, because there was at least 3 people that questioned the decision on the vote outcome, we're going to do a standing vote. We have 2 individuals over here that are going to assist with the telling. I should have gone over earlier in the meeting, just for clarification, the individuals in the upper right-hand side are not town residents, so they are not able to participate in this vote. So there will be no standing from you individuals over there on the right. So we'll move into the vote again. So all those in favor of amending administrative assistant payroll by reducing it by $50,000, please stand. This is to vote yes on reducing. Well, thank you very much. Everyone, please be seated that voted. We are going to vote on all those against. All those against, please rise. Did they count me? It's a majority, no. Thank you. Thank you, tellers. Thank you, everyone, for moving through the additional vote. So the outcome was 44 noes, 25 yeses. So the motion to amend fails by a majority. Moving on to the next line item, Department Assistant, $21,320. Are there any discussion? Yes, sir.
the administrative assistant to payroll, Brian Rosenman, 30 State Road. The town clerk stated that that is not what she gets paid. So what does she get paid?
We're discussing budgets, not payroll.
That is a point. So we have voted on the administrative assistant payroll and moving on to the department assistant. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to or has that information. Or don't we vote on it?
Yes.
Yeah, so once we get through all the questions, then we're going to do a final vote on everything. So that's when if there's any amendments and changes to the total outcome, at that point in time, we'll have to vote again for the total amount. Does that answer that question?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. Question?
Julie Hoffman, 200 Ward Hill Road. I would like clarification. If this isn't the number that Karen said, what is the number? It should be, what the number? It's in the town report. But if this is a number we're looking at, I want to know what the number is. It should say it here.
Okay,
These are the numbers we're voting on.
So then, listen, the number is like 76,000, just shy of 77,000 a year. The reason why the amount is in there is if Melanie leaves, okay, we're going to pay a lot more money than this. You cannot, we hear this within the fire department. When they came in with the school budget, it's hard for them to find qualified people at the money that they're paying. We're having the same problem within the community. The police chief position is up north of $85,000, and people are coming and saying it's not enough money. You can't hire a good person. Well, how do you expect us to hire an administrative assistant who oversees all these things? And I'm going to commend Melanie for what she's doing, because she's been outstanding, makes it a lot easier for the town clerk, for the select board and stuff to move forward. You know what the select board's not going to do? Me and Gare cannot work full-time doing the work that Melanie does.
I understand that, Bernie, and I commend you guys, but I also, as a town person, I want to know the numbers when I come here. I
Okay.
don't want to know, well, this
So-
is the number that I'm looking at.
So I'm telling you 77,000. Have you looked in the town report prior to coming to the meeting? You would have seen the number in there, and you could...
I looked in this, but I come in here and I see this number, and I look at the police chief, what he's going to get, and they ain't even close to this.
No, that's the maximum that he
That's the
could.
maximum.
It's not what he's getting paid.
Well, when I look at this and then I see what the maximum the police chief can get, that doesn't add up to me.
They're
I like to see accurate numbers.
They're hourly.
Yes, sir.
Rosenman, 30 State Road. So if these numbers aren't accurate, Bernie, if it's 77, why are we going to approve a budget that we're going to have to vote an override on, and the numbers are not correct?
That's my point. I mean, you get numbers that aren't accurate, so what's the point of being here?
They don't understand the process.
Excuse me, I do understand the process, but I don't like looking at inaccurate numbers. I ran off doctor's offices for years, so I do understand how the budgets work, but accurate numbers are accurate numbers.
Okay. Thank you for the additional information. I see a question that's been here for a little bit, and ma'am, we'll have you in right after.
Karen suggestion, Stephanie Flynn, Lake Corner Road, 2023, selectmen's salary, $74,417. Is that correct on page 57? Page 57. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there still a question in the back? Back there. You can be next, sir.
Sit up front.
Yeah. No, I don't want to be seen. I'm the cool kid. I'm Kat Buell, 3025 Royalston Road, and I was just questioning what the selectman makes per year. I'm just curious what that number is.
It's not related to the article.
Is it the 10,000?
It's not related.
Yes, and that's divided by 3 people.
Okay, so And the administrative assistant does all the work for that position. So basically, the administrative assistant is the position of the selectman because they have to do all that work for the whole town. Yeah. No?
The selectmen are responsible for everything that happens, but she does all the paperwork and deals with all the state bureaus.
So they're elected, they make the decisions, and then she has to fulfill the duties. Or fulfill the...
She works with us on those issues, okay?
I think we might be deviating a little bit from the line of the article, so if there's additional discussion.
I was just curious because I'm like trying to figure out, like, I feel like every administrative assistant I know does the job of 1,000 people, and I'm just trying to figure out like what her duties are.
She administers the whole town. The select board have to review everything that she brings forth. The select board makes your decisions, votes on policy. She'll bring forth policies from different towns. They review, decide which ones the towns will accept. Plus a million other things.
Right.
Grants. She's writing grants. I couldn't even tell you how much grant money she has brought in this year. She, you know, it's, you don't even know half of what's going on.
But in the select board, we're gonna defend her, and Karen brought up.
I want to defend her too. I 100% understand that.
This individual has brought in more grant money in the last year than we're paying her for the total salary. That has never happened in Phillipston. We've always paid people additional money for that. Okay? We paid people, other people, when they did grants, they got compensated for that. Okay? So that's part of what she does. If you, again, you're the voters, it's up to you to decide. For FY25, the actual number for Melanie's pay is going to be $78,184, $78,184 approximately.
That's yours?
Yes.
Yeah, but the selectman makes $10,000.
But she doesn't get that.
You have to do all of the things, the checklist, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So that's a position right there.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
That is a position.
But that's what I need to clarify in my head because I need to go through the what's this and what's that. Okay. But I'm supporting her. Am I supposed to stay here for these? Oh, okay.
You're good.
Okay.
Thank you very much. For those individuals right here that had a discussion before, we'll come back to you guys in a moment.
James Keating, and I'm Petersham Road. It's kind of piggybacking off of what you just said, but she also the treasurer for the human resources and treasurer?
Yes.
Is she also the treasurer and human resources, meaning she has a full-time job plus a part-time job plus, and it's, how does that work? That's my question.
Thank you. So the question just... Okay, so this question around clarity around all the different positions that are held. Does anyone want to comment on that on the board? You guys have comments on that part first?
They are separate positions, and this isn't any different than historically has been funded for these positions. I know there was a question about the administrative assistance amounts where they were 10 years ago to today. The job has dramatically changed. There's a lot of state requirements now that weren't in place. And I was on the board actually at the time with a previous administrative assistant, and it was more part-time than it is now. Melanie works like 4 days a week doing the administrative assistant work, and 1 day a week she works doing in some evenings, doing the treasurer work. And part of that job includes the human resource, which we used to pay somebody separately to do. We combined those positions, and she's been able to handle all of that work. So I'm not sure, like, if you go back 5 years ago and you pull each of those positions out, they're going to equal the same thing where it is today. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, I appreciate it, but I mean, I'm just going to make that comment because it is a full-time job. It takes all the hours in the world to do. And so my question really was, well, I'm working part-time.
Yeah, I'm not sure that anybody said that it was a full-time. It was a full-time position. We're thinking about doing that, but... Excuse me?
What was the nomenclature? You alluded to it was just how do I say it?
I can't, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. If you want to stand back up, and I'm not saying that to make you come up, but I really can't understand what you're saying.
No, it just seemed like it was a full-time position. And I guess I just interpreted a lot of work. Not doing a lot of saying it's not.
Yeah.
But I'm just surprised when you look back and maybe there's enough time for another part-time position on top of the selected duties.
Well, we're actually amazed ourselves, the select board and the other members who are working in town hall, that she can do the things that she does, and she gets them done, actually. We're very fortunate to have somebody of that scale in the town of Phillipston to help us out. If it's 9 o'clock at night, she's still working on things and letting us know, like, well, I'm working on this tomorrow, whatever. She's in good communication with the select board, the town clerk. That's something, it's a good quality that she has, and it's a good quality for the people of Phillipston.
Yeah, it just was here, guy makes 90,000 plus 30,000.
Yeah.
So the question is how many hats one person wears, so we can
Yeah, so maybe if somebody thinks that's a lot of money, what they should probably do is look at other communities and see what they pay their administrative assistants.
Well, when you compare it to other salaries that are listed, like
Yep.
police chief and emergency services, it does make it look.
I understand the question, but I don't think it's wrong either. And I hope we're getting some clarification on those things if people have questions.
All right, thank you very much. There was a couple of comments from the Finance Committee.
Yes, I'd like to, can't really move the question, but move this discussion and go on to the next question, article.
Thank you very much. One more.
Yeah, Tom Speck, Chairman of the Finance Committee, Blake Corner Road, Phillipston, I think still. I'd like, I'm hearing the selectmen speaking highly of Mel. I want to, as the Chairman of the Finance Committee, speak extremely high of Mel. I've never worked with anybody who's been so courteous, efficient, on the ball. If she didn't have the answers, by golly, before the day's over, she'd have an answer for me. I've asked her to look something up, or do something for me, and I'm talking in reference to Finance Committee, because she is, in essence, works for us too. I call her up 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and by 5:30, I'm getting an email back with the answers and an explanation and some, well, if you want to look into this further, places I can go, just click on and I'm there and I can read the information. She's definitely an asset to this town. I can think back when and I don't remember, was it our accountant or our treasurer who suddenly passed away, and the town was on, because of it, and the mess that it created, along with a few other things that were going on, almost put this town bankrupt.
Okay.
I think this town has gone way, way, way further in the last 2-3 years than we've ever moved before. And I'm saying that as a town, as a group of townsfolk, in terms of the people that have been moving into this town. And we should be lucky to have a person like Mel on the staff who, she doesn't live here, but I'll be darned, she takes this townsfolk to heart. You'd think she lived here and had a vested interest. I assume if you want to say $91,000 invested interest, that you can say.
Thank you for that additional information. All right. So with that being said, we're going to move to the department assistant. We do have one more comment.
Yeah, I'm not going to be very popular, but I think very beginning of the meeting, you did say we are talking about the position, not about the person. And I don't have anything bad to say about any one of them, but we have to remember that we're talking about the position, we're not giving a performance review right now.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Shame on me for not sticking to that. I do appreciate that insight and pointing that out. So moving forward, we are going to stick to the line items and have discussion around that. Yes, sir.
Can I make a motion that the administrative assistant payroll for FY25 actually be reflected to what Mr. Mallon said the salary was going to be of $78,000 instead of the 91?
I think we already voted on it. No, we already voted on it. You did?
So there is a motion on the floor to reduce the administrative assistant payroll to the amount
$78,000.
$78,000.
Wasn't 78,000.
Was there a second?
So whatever the number that Mr. Mallon said.
Yeah, there is a motion on the floor.
I heard a second.
Second.
There's a second. So the motion is to amend the administrative assistant payroll position to... Do we have that number?
No. That was last year's.
I said 78,000. I heard him say.
That's last year's number?
Do we have the number?
Go ahead, FY25. Okay, was there a second on that? There was a second.
What is the number?
78.
78,184.
78,184, is that what it was?
Yes.
So the motion that was seconded is to amend the administrative assistant payroll to $78,184. Is there discussion? Yes, sir.
Moderator, I may be out of order, but I'd like to make the motion that if this goes through in terms, I'd like to see a stand-up vote instead of yay, nay.
Okay, so if we move to a vote on this, we will do a standing vote to avoid any confusion on a majority.
Thank you.
Is there any additional discussion? Yes.
Carla Charter, 125 Willis Road, Phillipston. I'm understanding that that 91,000 is if Mel left, that's what we'd need to replace. We'd have to pay the next person probably to replace. That's why it's there. Am I right?
I'm going to tell you, we're going to pay more than 91,000. But that gives us some, flexibility in that area. It also doesn't give us any room for performance reviews or increase in pay. And or overtime if she needs to do something, and if she needs to work, I wouldn't blame her if she didn't work more than the 4 days in that position, even if something comes up, which may out of this meeting, because...
So that would be taken out of the 98,000 if she had to work like overtime or something?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. Now...
91,000.
If Mel leaves and we have to pay the next person more money, does that mean we're going to have to come back to another town meeting?
If we're going to have to come back to another town meeting, or essentially, or get the finance committee to take it out of reserve accounts, to have a special town meeting, all those things cost money too.
Exactly.
They take time. I think, again, it's...
And if there's money left over there at the end of the year, I'm assuming it just rolls over.
It rolls over, goes into free cash for the following year.
That's what I thought. Okay, it's just clarifying. So we'd have to have another town meeting if we had to pay somebody else.
It sounds like we're going to be having a series of town meetings, which is going to be an additional expense that's going to far exceed what we're trying to save.
Yeah,
I can tell you right
okay,
now.
I was just checking.
Moderator, move the question.
All right, so there is a motion to move the question, which would move us right to a vote. So I need a 2/3 result on that. So we're going to vote on moving forward to vote on the amendment to amend to $78,184. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Passes by a majority. So we will, hang on one moment.
There's a motion to move the question.
All right, so I apologize. Because it was not a unanimous vote and is at 2/3 and it's very close, we're going to have to do a standing vote on the move, the question vote. So we're going to do that one more time. Tellers, if you could please assist with this. So all those in favor of the amendment of administrative assistant payroll being changed from $91,063 to $78,184? This is just to move the question, everyone, just to clarify. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of layers, so we're gonna get through this. So this vote for the standing vote is to just move to vote on the amendment. Any question around that? Okay, so all those in favor of moving straight to a vote on the amendment, please stand. I don't vote on anything.
And you gotta count it because you don't have a bylaw that allows, you don't have a bylaw that allows the moderator to declare it 2/3. So you have to count. What does it have to count it to?
Should count it.
Never adopted the bylaw. I didn't realize I had one person. You need another bylaw.
Okay, so,
Thank you.
thanks. What date do you want to continue the town meeting?
That's one way to do it potentially is maybe we could adopt.
It's midnight, we're out of here.
One big motion, everything that's left.
General Law, Chapter 39, Section 15.
You're kidding, I'm serious. I was gonna look it up.
You all set?
Okay. So there's 77 yeas, which would allow for the pass of the move the vote. So, just so for clarification in the future, when there is a move to vote, if there's any no's, we're going to have to do a standing vote. So just for, if we come into this instant again for the rest of the evening. So now we're going to move to vote on the amendment of the administrative assistant 77. 77 yes votes, huh? 77 yes votes, and we have 80 individuals. Oh, my goodness, I apologize. Apparently, I am a little flustered just a moment, but we are good. We are going to get through this. We are going to vote on the no. So everyone that votes no on moving the question, please stand. So we're unanimous now, so thank you. All right. Now we are going to move to vote on the amendment again of the administrative assistant payroll from $91,063 to $78,184. So it's already been requested that this be a standing vote due to the question before. I agree. So we will move to vote via standing. All those in favor of the amendment, please stand. Thank you. Thank you. Everyone can be seated. All those against the amendment, please stand. Thank you. So the results of the vote are 36 yes, 34 no. The amendment passes. Moving on to the next line item. Department Assistant, $21,320. So there was a question. Yes, sir, in the back.
Was it the same guy? Oh, well, we've had a lot of conversations with him.
Yeah.
Mr. Moderator and voters, please excuse me, I jumped out of turn. I thought I was acknowledged by the moderator to speak on the department assistant, but I guess this will be a repeat for you. Again, Richard Valquist, 70 Baldwinville Road. And my question was threefold. Was number one, is this a new position? Number two, is it currently filled? And number three, is it actually necessary due to the elevated salary of the and duties of the administrative assistant?
So with the question, is there anyone up here that would like to speak to that question?
I'll speak to it anyway. We've had this, we've been trying for several years to find an assistant. In the past, we have had an assistant. Back 10 years ago, I think Sylvia worked in the office with Sue Varney. And so historically, we've had that position. Melanie's been doing it alone, doing a very good job again. We just cut her salary, so I wouldn't really get into this thing about it's an elevated salary, but that being said, that's my opinion anyway, my view on it. That being said, we wanted to have somebody in there in case something happens that Melanie can't work for whatever reason, and to learn the position. So I think the select board, we agree with that it is a necessary position, and that we recently filled it, and it seems to be working very well. And I would certainly recommend that we continue to fund the position.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion on this line item? Yes, sir.
Dave Manty, 570 Royalston Road. I would just like to know how many hours this person would work, and is the 21,320 the actual number, or has that been inflated? Thank you.
Anyone up front be able to clarify on that question?
I think we're hoping, right now, my understanding is it 12 hours a week? Right now, she's working 12 hours a week. We're hoping to get her up to working more hours. And my understanding is she's also going to help with some treasure work as needed, and potentially help out the town clerk if she needs some help. We're looking for some help in on some other committees and departments and stuff like that. So we're trying to increase the hours a little bit if we can, as she's able to do. She's not able to work that many hours right now. Hopefully in the future she can. Anybody that knows the individual, I think they probably have positive reactions and responses to what she gets accomplished with in that office. But anyway, I think the board's opinion is that she is needed. We're happy to have her, and we'd like to continue to have her. And as far as the inflated number, there's some extra funding there. When I say extra funding, the funding allows for her to work more than just the 12 hours a week, if needed.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion on that line? Go with the ma'am first. You'll be next, sir.
Kat Buell, 325 Royalston Road. And I'm just wondering, is this the assistant of the assistant? Okay, so I'm wondering if the administrative assistant does a full-time job by doing the assistant position and the treasurer position, should we just have two different positions then, instead of having another assistant payroll?
Can we let, Melanie's okay to talk? on
Yep,
Town Hall.
got
Can we
approval
let
from Melanie to speak
speak
earlier.
on that, because she has more on it.
So even though it's me, I recommend you keep the two positions separate, because where I came here as a treasurer collector, I came here just as a treasurer, but then ended up picking up the administrative assistant. If I were to leave one of the positions, you don't want to have to try to separate them back out.
Right.
So I work to keep them separated as they are.
So I guess what I would suggest or consider is that if you are the administrative assistant and having the treasurer position is like extra hours, full-time position, right? So would having just one position, and that would equal your actual salary, but what is suggested, because the 20,000 plus the 78 would be the 90. So then you would have a treasurer
Excuse me,
position, right?
I think you're confusing the two positions. Just two-
That's a different person.
Right, I'm saying eliminate that person and have two positions, a treasurer and an administrative assistant that can do the whole job.
It's succession planning. So if I leave, we need somebody who knows how to do payroll, so we can pay people. And we need somebody who knows how to do some of the stuff in the selectman's office so that you're not just drowning and nothing's ever getting done. So it's most towns have succession planning so that there's a selectman alert if somebody leaves. That's the purpose of the position.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
And to help, because it's hard to do everything all the time.
Yeah.
And take a vacation.
I hear, okay, I hear what you're saying.
All right, thank you. Is there any additional question? Do you still have a question, sir? Yep.
Why?
We have a second. There is a motion on the floor, seconded, to adjust the department assistant position from $21,320 to $10,000. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we will move to a vote. All those in favor of reducing the department assistant position from $21,320 to $10,000, please say aye. All those opposed, say yay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion fails. With that motion being said, we will move to the building and groundskeepers. $35,000, there was a question. Yes.
Rick Tenney, 160 Ward Hill Road. I've been always kind of against this $35,000 position in town, especially this year, because we have other buckets of money. We've got $25,000 for the Phillipston Memorial School Building. We've got $50,000 for maintenance and expense for the Phillipston Memorial School Building. We had $40,000 for the Town Hall building maintenance plan. That's down to $17,000, but that's going to roll over. And when we're talking a year that we may have a Prop 2.5 override, and if it doesn't pass, we're going to be talking cuts within town. I don't think we need to have an extra bucket of money for grounds and maintenance. If we wanted to have a town hall building maintenance program and put that at a higher number, back to 20 like it was in 2018, that will cover different repairs within town. But it's getting to the point that we have a whole bunch of buckets of money with $25,000, $50,000, $17,000. That's a lot of money. And when we're talking about possibly looking into a part-time police chief if things fail to try to save some money. And I think it was quoted that we want to try to take a position that if anybody knows, Chief Dodge is retiring this year, and we wanted to, if we had to cut something, it would be something that wouldn't affect a current employee. Well, this groundskeeper is not a current employee, so I think that this should be removed, and that's just my opinion. Thank you. I make a motion that it be removed.
Hearing a motion and a second to adjust the building and groundskeeper line item from $35,000 to zero. Is there any discussion? Question in the front.
Carla Charter, 125 Willis Road, Phillipston. I'm just trying to find out, does that groundskeeper also keep the cemeteries? Do they do the work in the cemeteries as well? No.
No, but I'm going to speak on that a little bit. So what happens is, it came up, and it wasn't my idea actually, but I thought it was a pretty good idea, is there's something in Massachusetts called prevailing wages, okay? We're looking at this building here. I don't know if you look up at the ceiling and you can see what's going on, but Don can tell you, like, over the years he's been up there, and the DPW boss should be able to tell you the same thing, that this roof needs to be replaced. The select board had recently signed an agreement with a roofing company to replace this roof for $277,000. It's a lot of money. And they were the low bidder, but yeah, by the way. The highway garage, or I should say the annex, the old garage, was close to $50,000 to do half of the roof. And a lot of these things are because of prevailing wages, state requirements that we have to do. So it came up that if we had somebody in-house that could at least do the repair work, we could save a barrel of money. And it seemed like a good idea, and it could work. Keep in mind that $277,000 was for this gymnasium here, not the rest of the building, which needs to be replaced. Anybody that's involved and goes to the meetings, and this isn't things that we just come up with here tonight and figure out. We have different committees. The roof on all the other structures and this here was to the tune of $500,000. That was 5 years ago. We're looking at another $300,000, $400,000 to do the remaining roof over there at some point. So the $35,000 was for somebody to do some of the things that have not been done in the past. At one time, I believe it was the DPW that was in charge or voted on to be the caretaker of buildings. Again, look at the roof, the siding falling off. The annex still has an oil tank in it that's been sitting there for the past 7, 8, 9 years. These are things that we're looking for this additional person to do. If we cut the $35,000, I'm sure the select board could make a decision, because we take care of the people in town and do the hiring and firing, that we could, have the DPW guys do that stuff. But my understanding is they were busy doing other things, and this was something that they haven't been able to pay attention to. Anyway, my thinking is I'd leave it in there. If people are worried about the override, again, the place to vote for that is at the ballot vote. Whatever happens here tonight, the budget is, whatever we vote is still subject to the override passing at the ballot. We don't have to argue here. If you don't want to do it, we should just go to the ballot and vote yes or no, instead of arguing here and wasting a bunch of time. If you want to ask on every question, that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's going to be May 20th when you go and vote that's going to make the final decision. So I would just move on and go from there, but I'm all done.
All right, thank you. So currently, we still have the motion of reducing from 35 to 0, and we have a question in the back. Thank you. Is there any additional comments along this amendment? Yes, sir.
Well, it could go either way, because we're using it as, we're hiring per diem. So, Rich, to answer your question, right now, we have somebody, I don't know if in mind, they haven't started yet, but we were going to pay them per diem instead of as an hourly employee of the town. That was better for the town. We could save money from the other expenses associated with an employee.
And this is just the max that we can pay.
And this would be the maximum, obviously, that we could.
Okay. Is there any additional discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote to reduce building and groundskeeper from 35,000 to 0. All those in favor of amending, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Fails by a majority. Next question, IT, 36,684. Question? We can move, there's a question on the vote outcome, so we can move to a standing vote on the last question on the amendment for building and groundskeeper, 35,000. I need the tellers to assist. So all those in favor of amending buildings and groundskeeper from 35,000 to 0. I appreciate the patience on this, folks. When we question the vote, we just want to make sure that everybody understands what the outcome is. So all those in favor of the amendment, please stand.
Yeah, what's a good date for the extension? Oh, she's ready for the next vote.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. So all those opposed to the amendment of building and groundskeepers being removed from 35,000 to 0, please stand.
It passed.
Okay, everyone, so this is why it is good to be able to question, as I try and do my best to assess the outcome of the vote. So moving forward on these, just to ensure clarity and to save on time, I think we're going to do standing votes moving forward on these line items because this amendment to move from 35,000 to 0 did pass by 36 to 22 vote. So moving to the next question of IT under Board of Selectmen, 36,684. There was a question? Yes, sir.
Ron Recos again, 10 Lake Road. I'm not questioning it, but it's nearly a 50% increase in 1 year. What's the justification for that? Or are the numbers false for this year? Or are the numbers false for last year? Or any of the numbers on this false or accurate or anywhere near truthful?
Okay. Question around the accuracy of this line. Melanie, can you speak to that?
Yes, I can speak to that. So we hired an actual IT company for the security of the town. And I can't speak to everything with the police department, but a lot of an audit that they had done, they needed to do a major upgrade, which then the town also had to upgrade. A lot of our equipment was so old, we ended up having to upgrade some of our equipment. So for the requirements stemming from the police department that are now spilling over to the town, it's just going to simply cost more money.
Very well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion or question on this line item? Seeing no additional question, we'll move on to the next question on line item under Finance Committee Reserve Fund 75,000. Was there a question still? Yes, sir.
I know. Dave Manty, 570 Wilson Road. I would like to make a motion to make a motion to reduce that to $50,000 instead of the 75. Last year they had 75 in there, and they haven't used any of it yet. So why not bring it down to 50,000 like it was in the past? Thank you. I make a motion to reduce it to 50,000.
There is a motion and a second to amend the reserve fund line of the Finance Committee from 75,000 to 50,000.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes, we have a comment? Yes.
I just want to say that we just now tonight, before this meeting, we had a joint meeting, and we had to request a transfer over $28,000 for some of the IT upgrades that we had to do this year. So you never know when you're going to need it, but I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion?
Yeah, I'm going to speak on that because the reserve fund is for things unseen, for seeing things that come up. Sounds like a lot of money, $75,000. We lose a cruiser tomorrow, there goes to $75,000. We've lost a couple transmissions and stuff in vehicles recently that have come out of that. Not this year that we're in, but in the prior year. The ambulance was out of commission for a while because it needed, was that a transmission in the? It needed a new engine. So if a dump truck breaks down, they blow an engine or something, they come to the Finance Committee to get the money out of the reserve account because you can't plan on those things happening, but they do happen. We have some pretty good equipment. We have some newer equipment. Unfortunately, it costs a lot more to fix than it has in the past. If it was me, I would leave it at the $75,000. That was the recommendation of the Finance Committee and the Select Board in these joint meetings that we came up with this budget on. So anyway, that's my part on it.
All right, we have additional comments here.
Yeah, Tom Speck, Phillipson. I want to speak on this, and I want to add to what Bernie said here, and the chief can correct me if I'm wrong, but we took reserve money out to put a new engine in one of the Tahoes when it inexplicably just poof, and it died. And it was, one of those rebuilt engines, and I imagine it's still running as good as a new one. The other thing that was our concern is we were putting the budget together. Personally, I keep track of my gas in terms of how much I pay per gallon, and I've seen where I go consistently, gasoline price has gone up at least 20 cents a gallon in the last, I'll say, 2 months. These are some of the unforeseen things that suddenly will say, before elections, November, we use November, inflation might really be raising hell with our town, and before you know it, the budgets, maybe even some of these budgets that you so fondly cut, are suddenly in the zero, big time, even negative numbers. And we would use the reserve funds as an emergency fund, if you want to look it up in the general laws for the state, and to help keep that particular department alive and keep them going until the end of the year. It's and I don't have the statistics. Mel might, for in the past when we had 75 there, but I remember every year using it to some extent, maybe not all of it, but you have to remember, a lot of townsfolk have money in the bank, so if the tornado comes by and rips the roof off your house, or as they call them here in New England, wind shear, you can at least get your roof fixed until the insurance company gets you the money. And that's the same with this fund. So personally, I think you're doing wrong by cutting it back to $25,000. Yeah, we've had good winters. Or we have a terrible winter. And machinery is breaking down. We get one of those winters where every other day we have a nor'easter, ice storm, et cetera, et cetera. I can remember when we really had a really bad ice storm going back a little ways. And I can remember being bussed into the town hall with selectmen and making some decisions from the reserve fund. Ironically, though, 2-3 years later, the state finally reimbursed us for that money, but it was a good thing we had it then. And I just think you're making a mistake, personally. Then again.
Okay, so is there any additional discussion on the amendment to reduce from $75,000 to $50,000 the reserve fund for the Finance Committee? Yes.
Carla Charter, 125 Willis Road. I'm for keeping the 75,000, especially considering the emergency vehicles, because if they need a repair, they need a repair now. And if you don't have the money, I'm assuming we're going to have to go back to town meeting again, which means that vehicle is going to be out of commission. I'd rather have the Finance Committee have the money they need.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion on this? Yes, sir.
Well, each department has their own expense account, so they can use the money on their own. If the cruiser did get in an accident, we have insurance.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Yes, sir.
But if your expense account, I don't know, I'll pick somebody, road department, because they've been cut, they weren't, but because they've been cut in terms of their expenses or even in their payroll, and they run short, and usually a lot of times when they start running short is January, February, and oh my God, and they come to the Finance Committee, we need to transfer funds under an emergency. Well, why? Well, you remember the town meeting, they cut us drastically. Again, yeah, they do have budgets for repair and maintenance, but sometimes it's a catastrophic repair. I mean, I can remember some repairs going back.
Okay, so I think we've touched on the items, and there's a little bit of repetition happening here, so I'm going to ask that if there's any additional discussion that is outside of what's already been discussed on this, that we move to a vote. Okay, all those in favor of reducing on an amendment the reserve fund from $75,000 to $50,000, I'm going to move to the standing votes just because I don't want to waste time with regular votes as we've had to do numerous ones here. So tellers, if you could please continue to assist on these. All those in favor of the amendment, please stand. Thank you. All those opposed to the amendment, please stand. Based on observation, the motion fails. All right, and due to time, everyone, we are here sitting at 9 o'clock. I'm just going to ask that we are mindful of the discussion time, so if we do want to just, not that anyone has really pushed the limit, but keep it to 3 minutes or less if we can. And we'll be moving on to the next line item under Town Clerk. That was questioned, Assistant Town Clerk Payroll, $4,390. Is there any additional questions on this? Seeing no additional question at this time, we'll move on to the next line item, Certification Stipend, $1,000. That was questioned as well earlier. Is there an additional question at this time? Okay, seeing no question, we will move to the next line item under Treasurer, Certification Stipend, $1,000. Is there any question at this time on this line item? Seeing no additional question, we will move to the next one that was questioned earlier under Treasurer, Assistant Treasurer Payroll, $4,000. Is there any questions at this time? Yes, sir, in the back.
Yes.
Is it necessary? This is for the Assistant Treasurer Payroll, $4,000. Is it necessary is the question?
Yes.
The answer is yes, from Board of Selectmen, just in case anyone couldn't hear. Is there any additional discussion on this? Seeing none, we'll move to the next item under Tax Collector, Certification Stipend, $1,000. Is there any question at this time? Seeing no question, we'll move to the next item under Public Safety, Dispatch Services Expense, $50,000. Is there a question at this time? Yes, in the front.
My question was, why are we cutting it? I mean, how are we going to, does the departments have enough for dispatch services? Is that going to affect the ability to get dispatch if you need them? That was my only question.
Any clarification on that?
I think I can answer that. We entered into an agreement with Templeton for dispatch services, and after some discussion, we were thinking about moving to another community. In a meeting with the police and the dispatch services from Templeton, they were willing to reduce the amount for us to stay with them. So it was a significant savings for the town, and that's reflected in this number. Okay?
Thank you. With that new information, is there any additional discussion on this line item? Possibly a question here?
Yeah, we can have the other information.
You stand and just speak.
Yeah, I does it have the other information other than that?
Yeah, it's the same services. Is that what your question?
Yeah.
It's exactly the same services, and we worked with the select board with the police and the DPW and the fire, like to decide like if we should move, not just the cost, but it was something I think we all agreed on. The police, the fire, the DPW, and the select board, and the dispatch services from Templeton saved services, but saving a significant amount of money. Okay.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion on that, we'll move to the next one that was questioned under Police Department, Police Chief Salary, $86,944.
Okay,
Is that a position as a full-time police chief?
Yes.
yes.
It's going to be employee posting?
Yes.
Well, technically, yes, but we haven't got that far yet, so, because we haven't advertised for.
There are employees of using a part-time police chief and sharing it with company.
That's not something that we're not aware of, but,
There's a full-time chief police.
Yeah.
right now, so Paul, right now on the budget, on the warrant, this is for a full-time Phillipston police chief, okay? The Phillipston police chief now, Mr. Dodge, and by the way, we congratulate him for his many years of service. He's done a great job in the town of Phillipston.
Thank you, Chief Dodge.
So anyway, in the numbers here, and it's not anything that we're favorable on doing, but we recognize that if the police chief is retiring, which he has every right to do, and he should enjoy his life, is that there's monies here. We're trying to figure out how to come up with $170,000, right? So if we had a part-time police chief and we could cut that to half of that amount, that would save us a significant amount of money. That seems to be some of the consensus of what's going on. And if that's how it goes, then my recommendation would be to cut that in half and have a part-time chief. It's not our favorite position, but again, it's not up to us.
Your own administrator right here says that because of the house being built in because there's more than needs on highway and police, night of part-time police officers. Royalston's trying to fill, small town like Royalston's
Yep.
trying to fill it with a full-time police.
With a full-time chief?
Yes, that's what they're looking for now. Why
You-
don't we go back?
I'm not saying we're gonna go back.
I just want to make sure we don't.
If the constraints are that we need to save, we have to cut this budget and save money, that's one of the things that we need to consider. That's all I'm saying. I'm not, my preference is to pass this budget, to get to pass at the ballot. And by the way, just in case anybody wants to know, I'm probably going to pay as much and not more than anybody else in town because I have more properties. And that being said, I don't want to pay more, but if we need to keep the services, I'd like to keep a full-time police chief. I think Gail would too. We'd like to have somebody within the community. But we need to be mindful of you individuals as voters to respect your wishes. If you want us to cut taxes, you know, we got to figure like where to go. I don't want to like let go of people who are dependent on that already, that this position will be unfilled, or I shouldn't say unfilled, it'll be reduced so that there's still somebody in the position if we have to pull back and figure a way to cut money. Where else, someone's got to come to our finance committee meetings and tell us like where else can we save money? There's only so much there and we got to figure like how to do it. So right now I had a question on that. I'm going to say like let's like leave it alone. My intentions are, and Gear 2, is to have a full-time police chief in the town of Phillipston. But we need to make sure that we have the money to fund these positions. That's all I'm saying. Okay?
Full-time positions in the 175.
Excuse me?
The full-time positions part of that 175.
Well, technically it is part of the override because we need that money to fund the positions, you know? Anyway, so I would say like let's just pass over that question, okay, at this time?
Okay. Is there any other discussion around the police chief salary? Okay, there was a question on the next line item, chief on duty holidays. Is there any still question on that?
I would, because I made the question on all three of those, I would say, like, let's move on beyond those right now and just on the next two questions.
Okay. The next line item that was questioned under police department was expenses, $105,060. Is there any question at this time for that line item?
I'm not sure. None from me.
Okay, seeing no question, we'll move to the next one that was questioned, planning board clerk salary, $5,551. Is there any question remaining on this line item? Seeing no question, we'll move to the next, secretary payroll hourly, $1,622. Seeing no question, we'll move to the next item of Phillipston Memorial Building custodial payroll, $16,913. Any question?
Yes, sir. Just looking at last year's number of 10,000, Ron Recost, 10 Lincoln. Why is a 69% increase in that cost of custodial services?
Wasn't it, I was looking back, did you say before that that's what we reduced it down?
I think we reduced it and then we asked to bring it back up to the previous amount from previous years. Okay, just Ron. No, I understand, but I want to tell you, like, Don's doing the work, okay? He's the janitor, maintenance guy, and half of the stuff that he does, he doesn't charge the town for. He doesn't put down. If we have to replace Don for some reason, we're not going to have a janitor, so to speak, to come in and clean up the building for $10,000 a year. That ain't going to happen. So, okay, thank you.
All right, is there any additional question on that line item? All right, seeing no question, we'll move on to, that was the last question on the budget for Article 8, so we need to take a moment to assess the total amount.
Yeah, just take a recess for like 2 minutes.
All right, we're going to take a 3-minute recess just to get this final number so we can vote on Article 8. As obviously we've been here discussing multiple ones, there's been some adjustments. So please stand by while we work this out.
Okay.
Amendments, and we're going to have to go through 2 steps on this to get Article 8 closed up. The first is going to be a motion to amend the total amount because we had some changes. Once that occurs, we're going to vote on that amendment amount, right? So then it changes the article to consist of that amended amount. At that point in time, we'll vote on the article as a whole to pass that. Okay, just for some clarity. So that's where we are.
All right, I move that we amend the original motion to raise and appropriate $2,711,102.
Second.
So the motion is to move it to $2,711,102, and I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously on the adjustment. So now we are going to vote on Article 8 as a whole with the amended amount consistent. There's already been a move and a second. So all those in favor of Article 8 amended, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Thank you everyone for your patience as we worked through that and had everyone's discussion. We are now going to move on to the next article, Article 9.
I move the article is printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 10.
Move the article is printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, moving to a vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 11.
I'm going to move the article as printed, deleting an act or relation thereto, and further providing that spending limits shall remain applicable from fiscal year to fiscal year until revised by town meeting prior to July 1st for the ensuing fiscal year.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Question.
I have a question on the commercial solar array. This is something that came up before, like $60,000. That is for the electrical inspectors.
Can you get the microphone, Bernie?
Let's start again.
Sorry, everyone.
Yes, I have a question on if you look at the commercial solar array, that's for the electrical inspector to do the inspections on the solar array when they put in the fields and stuff. I'm going to make a motion to reduce it to, I'm thinking like in the $25,000 range, and I'm going to tell you why. Because this $60,000 is more than most electrical inspectors make in a year. This is, for this amount to be $60,000, to me, it's, unless I'm missing something, somehow it's a percentage of what the fees are on that, but doesn't it seem like a little high? It seems, and Gary agrees, he's an electrician. But anyway, I'd like to amend it. Do you think that's a fair amount, 25?
25.
I would like to make an amendment to that. We're talking about saving money and stuff like that. If an array comes into town, there's no reason why they should pay $60,000. If they're going to pay that much, then the balance from 60 to 25 would come to the town. To me, it seems more prudent and appropriate. I'm making a motion to reduce it to 25.
Second.
Hearing a second to amend the commercial solar array from 60,000 to 25,000. Is there any additional discussion?
1 minute.
Oh. 1 moment.
So when they come in, this is just a revolving fund, so basically, so we should reduce the amount from, well, it doesn't affect your taxes or anything else, it's a separate program, it's a fee for
Put the rest of the money in the state.
We have to do this.
Because they pay X amount per permit. So the rest of the money in the state.
25%. Well, it's going to still be, it's a new policy. So to accomplish what we're trying to do, should we change it to 25% instead of,
Right now, the electrician on that project is 75%.
That's what the ones council changed.
Sorry, everyone, we're just working on getting some clarification on what the actual cost.
How do we reduce the amount? That we don't, it's not a problem. The amount you can use. Yeah, that's not a problem. That's a spending limit for that account. I guess you could have a fund that would be $2 an hour, $200. You just can't spend it. Whatever your agreement is with the
Okay, we're going to pass over for now, but we're going to work on it. There's a question about like with the amount being paid and what the fees actually collected, that we're going to have to work on that a little bit, and I'll bring it back at a future town meeting.
So is he withdrawing his motion?
Withdrawing the motion.
Doesn't affect our taxes.
Withdrawing the motion.
Okay, motion is withdrawn.
I'll withdraw my second.
One moment, we're just... Is there any additional discussion before we move to a vote?
No.
Okay, seeing no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 12.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $2,059,793 to pay its share of the Narragansett Regional School District budget for FY25.
Second.
Hearing a second. Is there any discussion? Question?
Chuck Cobenson, 95 Whitney Road. My question is, a couple of years ago, we decided to shutter the Phillipston Memorial School, and at that time we were led to believe that the reason that had to be done was cost. This particular budget for this year represents a 10.8% increase, which is certainly more than just what the teachers' increases are. So I'd like to understand why we are seeing this level of increase, in addition to the fact that we've lost the local Phillipston Memorial School. Thank you.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen.
Yes, I'd like to know if Dr. Casavan could speak on this.
Okay, so before I ask Dr. Casavant to speak, is there any opposition from him speaking on the floor because he is not a town resident? Seeing no concern, Dr. Casavant, could you please come up here and speak to the budget?
Good evening, Chris Casavant, Superintendent of Schools. So the question about why is it so much? We are plus 100 students, resident students, over 2 years. As you remember, when we had to, when the failed override happened in 20, we had to close Phillipston. We moved everybody up to Templeton, etc. And what the goal was is we were mandated, or we were told, that to cut school choice students, because we had 250 school choice students in 2020 at that time. Currently, I have 151 school choice students. We have 625 elementary students currently right now, and there are only 14 school choice students in that entire elementary school. So what was going to happen before COVID was that we were going to reduce the number of teachers, because we're reducing the number of students, school choice. Then COVID happened, and everybody started to move west for whatever reason. So we have been plus 100 kids now for 2 years. The number of students that we have at the high school, we will see the last graduating class under 90 this year. Because starting next year, it'll be 95, it'll be the senior class, 25, will be 95, and after that, it's 98 and 93. I have 128 eighth graders, and currently the fifth grade is 138 kids. So they're here. You know this. They're building all over the place in both towns. And so that is the primary reason that these are 4 teachers that we need at the high school currently. You know, that's how big our numbers are now at this time. I'm not sure if I've answered the question in totality.
Thank you, Dr. Casavant. Is there any additional question after hearing the new information? Yes.
So it breaks down to 85-15, right? 85-15. 15. We have currently 200 students from Phillipston in our public school in Narragansett, and that's the highest since I've been here. I don't know past that, but that's been 8 years.
Thank you. The additional information, is there any additional discussion? Yes, sir.
So let's be clear, I didn't close this school. The override failed. 3 meetings. Okay, but it wasn't me. So I was on stage 3 meetings, and it was awful if you were at that last meeting, okay? The override failed. We had to cut $1 million, and that's what happened. That is actually what happened. Do I want this building open? Yes. I wanted it open then. We were going to make this an early childhood, right? Pre-K through 1, 2, call it, whatever, depending on the numbers. That was discussed. That was denied. And we don't need to go unless you want me to, but that was absolutely part of the plan. we moved these teachers last at our own expense into that new school. There are people here who know that. We kept them here as long as possible in the hopes that we could make this pre-K through 1 or 2, depending on the numbers, and it didn't happen. So am I going to outgrow the school, given that I have 275 pre-K and K age eligible kids for pre-KK currently right now, which is a number that we have not seen, I don't know, whatever. I can't answer that question, but if they keep building, then eventually we're going to have that conversation. So, I don't know. I don't want to, that we're going to have to find another space. I don't know, right? That I don't know, because we're technically not a school, right? This is not a building, it's a school any longer. We're working on that. Like we spoke at the finance, the joint meeting back in March. I'm trying to get some clarity on exactly who makes that decision.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any additional new discussion? Okay, I think we can move to a vote. Thank you, Dr. Casamont. So hearing no additional discussion, all those in favor of Article 12, please say yay. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes with a majority. Moving on to Article 13.
I move the town raise and appropriate $255,452 to pay its share of the Montezut Regional Vocational Technical School budget.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we can move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 14.
Move the article is printed, deleting or acting in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 15.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $20,000 for the assessor's property reevaluation expense account.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those say nay. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 16.
Move the article is printed, deleting or acting in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 17.
I move the town transfer from free cash $5,000 for the control of invasive nuisance plant species at Queen Lake, including all incidental or related expenses.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, moving to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 18.
Move the article is printed, deleting or acting in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, let's move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes the majority. Moving on to Article 19.
Move the article is printed, deleting or acting in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to the vote. All those in, oh, I apologize.
Does this money go into general fund, or is there a different place that the money's going into for both articles, 18 and 19?
The question is, does it go into the general fund? And the answer is yes. Any additional discussion on Article 19? Okay, moving to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Passes by a majority. Moving on to Article 20.
I move the article as printed, deleting or acting in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Yes, sir.
Dave Mancy, Royston Road. I think this $20 charge is kind of ridiculous. This is a 300% increase. So in case anybody doesn't know what the $20 is, if you have an excise tax bill, you get charged $5 for a late fee right now, which probably some of you have gotten. So they want to increase that to $20. So I have 5 excise tax bills. If I mail them in the mail and they get lost, I'm out $100 because they got lost by the mail system. And I have to pay, obviously, the tax on each bill. And the elderly, not picking on the elderly, but you might be a little forgetful here and there. So now if you forget to throw it in the mailbox, you get a $20 fee. Or maybe money's tight that week or month, you're going to get nailed with another $20 instead of $5. So I would rather have that $20, make an amendment to reduce that to 10. So it would be going from the current $5 to $10 and get rid of that 20. And that would be a 100% increase instead of a 300. Thank you. I did, didn't I? Make a motion to reduce the 20 to 10.
So there's a motion to amend Article 20 from a fee of $20 to 10. Is there any discussion?
I did have a question, because I seen we just passed something to have like a minimum bill for taxes, I believe it was, for real estate taxes, because it's such a small amount, they want to bill it all together, because it's more costly to do separate billings, and I agree with that, and I'm wondering why the same thing wouldn't apply to this, is if it seems to me like it probably costs more than $10. That seemed to be like a nuisance fee, the $10, you know, for the tax collector to try to collect those fees. So, I mean, the recommendation was to have it be $20. I think if we raise it to 20, it's going to be like that probably for the next foreseeable future anyway. I don't want to say 20 years because things are going up so quickly, it's hard to tell nowadays, but just consider that when you're making a vote on it.
Yes, additional comment?
Yeah, we've had the same tax collector for 20, 25 years, and she's never raised the amount. And other towns have raised the amount over the years. Other towns charge $20.
Or more.
It's not just a fee, it's work. I just send out fines to people that haven't licensed their dogs. And they're very upset with me because they have to pay a $25 late fee, and after June 1st, they'll have to pay a $50 fine. They don't like that. The original dog license is only $10, but they don't license, okay? If I don't send them a letter and tell them they owe a fee or a fine, they're just not going to license. They're not going to just come in on their own and, oh, I forgot, I'm late. No, it's not until they get that fine that they come in. And yes, they're upset about it, but I have to check to make sure that they're still here. Did they move? They still have the dog. When was the last time I got information about the dog? It took me 2 days to send out 50 notices for dogs that haven't been licensed. Would you rather I didn't send them out? Would you rather I didn't find people? Do you want 100 unlicensed dogs in town that don't have rabies, that you don't know who owns them? It takes time. So when you say the $20, you're talking about research time, postage time, paper folded, put in the mail, etc.
Okay, let's move the question.
It's time.
Thank you. So I think that was a little bit outside of the scope, but it's just to give reference onto the cost.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. My only comment is that all we're doing is actually getting in, you know, even with other towns. It's been $5 since I moved here, and that was over 30 years ago. So, you know, probably should have gone up to $10 10 years ago. So going to 20 is just keeping us, it's the same fees that the other towns are charging.
Okay, is there any additional discussion? Yes, sir.
My question is, what is the allowable amount? Is that $20 all the way to the maximum, or?
In the notes on the article, it says that the town could charge up to $30 for the demand. And the article is to bring it to 20, which is still under. Any additional discussion? So just because for time, I'm going to have a standing vote on this just because I don't want to potentially have a secondary vote. So we're going to have to vote on the seconded motion to change from $20 to 10. All those in favor of the amendment, please stand. Okay, thank you very much. You can be seated. So all of those opposed to the amendments, please stand. All right, thank you, everyone. I appreciate the patience as we do the standing votes. Just, it's clear that things are kind of close, so just to save a little bit of time here and there. All right, so for the amendment, we had 24 supporting the amendment and 34 noes, so the amendment fails. So now we will move to vote on Article 20 as a whole, just because there's already been an amendment on it, I'm sorry, a vote for an amendment on it. I'm going to have a standing vote again, just for clarity's sake. So all those in favor of Article 12, I apologize, 20. It's been a long night, folks. All right, so all those in favor of Article 20, please rise. Thank you, everyone. So all of those opposed to Article 20, please rise. Okay, based on observation, passes by a majority. Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on to Article 21.
I move the article as printed, deleting an act of relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 22.
I move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 23.
I move the town transfer from free cash $4,065.61 to pay the prior year bills as set forth in the warrant.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Okay, so this is a 4/5 vote. So if it's unanimous, we don't have to do a standing vote. If there are any nays, then we'll have to do a repeat second vote. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 24.
Move the town transfer from free cash $10,000 from Montezut Regional Transit Authority, MART services, including all incidental or related expenses.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 25.
I'll move the article as printed, deleting or enacting in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 26.
I move the article as printed, deleting or enacting in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Question?
Benson, 95 Whitney Road. My only question is, given all the concern about rising costs and so forth, is there a maximum amount here, or if I go pick out whatever blood insurance I'd like, we pay half of it?
Thank you. Can anyone speak to that?
So when folks retire, there's a MedX plan that they can choose to take. I can't remember, it's like 300 and something a month. I don't remember. Yes.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion on this?
Yeah, Ronnie, I understand there are like 292 towns in Massachusetts, and Phillipston at this point is one of 6 that does not pay adult comparatively.
Thank you for the information. Is there any additional discussion?
What's the cost on this?
Nothing yet.
We can't, there's not a cost yet because we don't have anybody who's retired who can take the insurance. So the next person who retires that they take the insurance will pay 50%. Right now, we wouldn't pay for anybody until we have somebody retired.
How many years do we need to be work for the town? How many years do you have to put in?
No, you have to be with the town at least 10 years of retirement.
10 years?
Yeah, but this is what's that? Okay, I guess I misspoke on that. I was just like informed that if you're in like municipal services in another town, say you were working in Royalston and then you came to Phillipston, combined would have to be the 10 years. So I guess depending how you look at it, you could come from somewhere else and retire from Phillipston and get paid your health insurance for the rest of your, or I should say the supplemental plan for the rest of your life. This is like a supplemental plan from 50% of the plan from in addition to what Medicare doesn't cover. And I guess we heard we're only 6 of 299 towns or 351 towns. So it's something, it's a nice thing to offer people that work for the community. And this is one of the things I was talking about. We've been trying to work on and give people who work for the town the benefits, attract people to come to Phillipston to work when we have an open position, and take care of them like for their Yeah. My understanding is, now correct me if I'm wrong, Council, is that's a state law about the 12 years accumulation.
Yes, so after 10 years, if you're in the state retirement system, you vest after 10 years.
Yeah.
You vest at 10 years. That's a state.
So that's a state law, like after 10 years, he said that. Yeah. Okay. Rick?
Definitely get clarification on that, because there's a lot of communities out there that 10-year is the invested interest in the town. There's a lot of towns that specifically say we need to be employed in town for 10 years. So I'd like to know, is that fact? Because you could get 10 people from the town. I'm a town employee, I don't want to see this, but I think that I'd like to get the facts on that.
So why don't you make a motion to pass it with the 10-year vested?
I would say either if people are questioning about it, then they should just go to the postpone action, because these are retirement stuff. It's not my area of expertise. It's very complicated. But my understanding is that if you're 10 years in the state system, you invest. And so if you retire,
Just working on getting clarity on that. One moment.
Yeah, I got a question before we go to that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so there's some unclarity about what you were asking, Rick. So potentially we could postpone it until we get some opinion or clarity from council. It's something that has to be researched a little bit, but the understanding is that right now we're thinking that they could come from another community, and as long as they had 10 years of service in municipalities, like if it was Royalston or Athol or whatever. But
I can speak.
yeah, I'm going to let council speak.
Okay. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Moderator, in response to the questions. I will say, so labor and employment is a very specialized area, as you probably know, particularly specialized with respect to municipal and state law as well. And retirement in particular is even more specialized. So it is not my area of practice. However, I did speak to one of our labor and employment specialists before town meeting, just in case any questions may have come up. And I don't know that I can answer all of your questions this evening, but at least it is my understanding from my conversation with my colleague that if you are eligible to retire and you are entitled to get into, if the town adopts this provision, then the town will pay 50% of the health insurance that the retiree is eligible for. In terms of whether or not you're eligible to retire and invest in the system, you need 10 years of service in the state retirement system. So that typically is, for town employees, it's usually somebody has worked for another city or town at some point, and that time all accumulates in the system. You can also work for the state. There's opportunities to buy back time if you worked as a call firefighter or in a part-time position as a lifeguard, I believe at one point they were offering from MDC. So it's really complicated, and there's not like a straight line really that you could draw on this stuff. But if you are eligible to retire and you have years of service with another community, and when you finish your career, you're working in Phillipston and you retire from Phillipston, my understanding is that you are a retiree of the town of Phillipston with time credited from other communities as well. You pay that, the town of Phillipston will pick up that premium. Now, at one time, from what I was told, there used to be a provision that had, if you retired from Phillipston with, say, 2 years of service and you had 28 years of service in a different community, that the other community could be billed for that portion of the cost. My understanding is the state got rid of that because cities and towns were sending bills to other communities saying, hey, you owe us X dollars, John Doe retired from our system, as an employee of the town, but he worked for 25 years for your town prior to coming here, and those went into the circular file and were never paid. And because there was never any real ability to collect it, my understanding is the state just decided to drop it completely. And so if an employee who retires as an employee of the town of Phillipston even though had worked in other communities in the past, those other communities do not have to contribute to this retirement benefit for health insurance. That's what I was, again, it's not my area of expertise. I did have a conversation with one of my colleagues beforehand, and that's what I was informed.
Question?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we should say benefited because full-time employees are actually, there's, what considered 21 hours? 20, see, and that's, sometimes people have the misconception, they think like, geez, they gotta be like 40 hours a week. In 20 hours, anything over 19 or 19 and a half hours is considered a full-time employee by the state rules. So if they work 20 hours a week, yeah, they're considered benefited, and this would be attributed to them also. Ron?
I just recently retired from the city of Greenmead after 4 years.
Yeah.
I got 4 years in the U.S. Air Force. That counts. And I held 3 years for town building. I need 11 years for a retired Monday.
Geez, I have to talk to you about the 3 years in Phillipston, because maybe I could get on this supplemental plan. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that additional information. All right. Additional question?
Another question.
That's a really good question.
So, thank you, Mr. Moderator. So the statute that we're talking about, 32B, Section 9A, would require the town to pay 1/2 of the premium costs that are payable on behalf of a retired employee. So if the person retires at 50, 52, 77, if they're a retired town employee, then the town is responsible for paying 50% of that benefit. Okay, my understanding from the administrative assistant is that if you are a member of the Worcester Regional Retirement System, you need to be 55, age 55 to retire.
Yes, sir. Second to move the question. So we need a majority vote to move the question, so we'll go, once the vote is approved, we'll go to move to a vote on the article. All those in favor to move the question say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. So now we can vote on Article 26. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Passes by a majority. Moving on to Article 27.
Move the town transfer from free cash $215,000 to the Capital Investment Fund.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote on Article 27. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 28.
I move to transfer the sum of $165,000 from the Capital Investment Fund to purchase and equip an excavator with attachments for the Highway Department, including all incidental and related costs.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, moving to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 29.
I move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? This is a 2/3 vote, so if it is close, we'll have to do a standing vote. All those in favor of Article 29 say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 30.
I move the town transfer from free cash $106,983 to the stabilization fund.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Question?
Just had a question. How much do we have in free cash currently? Yeah.
One moment.
Well, you're taking 106,000 out of it right now, so whatever you're taking that 106,000 out.
Do you have the free cash number? I don't have it with me.
I don't want to go on there.
Yeah.
The total free cash we have for FY '25 was $427,933. And what we're using it for, we would have left, which is not enough, it would be 86, hold on, I'm turning my pages. 86,884 would be left for these articles. You're welcome.
Any additional discussion on Article 30? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 31.
Move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Peter.
Okay.
Peter Trapezoff.
So we are on, I have a second on Article 31. Is there any discussion? Is there any recommendation from the CPC on Article 31? Okay. Recommended that it passes absolutely. All right. All those in favor of Article 30, unless there's additional discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Nay? Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 32.
I move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second. All right, just for clarity in all these CPC articles, is there a recommendation on all? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to get that clarification. Thank you, Town Council. So back to Article 32. I do have a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 33.
Move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 34.
Move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 35.
Move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of Article 35 say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 36.
Move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 37.
Move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 38.
Move the article as printed, deleting or enact in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 39.
I move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 40.
I move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving on to Article 41.
I move the article as printed, deleting or act in relation thereto.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? Question?
I had a question on the article, page 8 of the bylaw, Article 6. That whole thing, is that being struck off in the bylaw?
The question is on Article 8 and what is being stricken out.
I can speak to that.
Town Council will speak to that portion.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. In response to the question, the question from the gentleman is that Article 6, building of the town's bylaws, which is being amended on page 8 in Appendix A, the first two sections have been stricken as noted, and the question is why was that the case? And the rationale behind that is that these are unnecessary. They're actually in the zoning bylaw, specifically Section 11A1 of the zoning bylaw and Section 14 of the zoning bylaw, which is really where they should be. My guess is that these were probably put in at some point before zoning was adopted. Ultimately, the zoning bylaw covers these specific issues, so there's no reason to have it in here, and in fact, it does conflict. And there's also a question whether one of the provisions would actually be lawful at this point anyhow.
This is on the zoning.
The trailer stuff. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any additional questions on Article 41? Seeing no questions, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously.
I move we dissolve the annual town meeting.
Second.
Hearing a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, have a great evening, everyone. It was a late one. We appreciate your attendance and